So in the workshop today we've got a Scots pine again. I do have other trees in my collection, but it just so happens that several of these have all come ready for work at the same time. Now this is another tree that I bought in Spain a few years ago, and when I bought it, it looked like this. When I got the tree, it was incredibly craggy. It had obviously been growing in a very exposed position, and it looked to me as though it had just been laying flat on the ground. It was beautifully craggy but very, very weak. The needles were absolutely tiny, the buds were almost imperceptible, and it was barely alive. Anyway, eventually it started to pick up. I got it repotted, and so it started to move forward. The growth started to happen and the buds started to swell, the needles were getting bigger, and the tree was happy, it was building roots. I offered it for sale on our website for, I think it was sort of sub 500 quid. Anyway, nobody bought it, and so as I do, I just decided to hang on to it. Not long after it was repotted, I decided I really didn't like that straight trunk, and so I put in process the bending of this trunk you can see now. That was done basically by just taking a turnbuckle hooked into the top of the tree, off the dead wood that I had at the bottom, and then just slowly just pulled it over. It took me 2 years to do the complete bend, and then it took another year for it to settle down to where I could take away the wire and the tourniquets. And during that time, this bark basically naturally died off and has uncovered a very nice spiraled shari. There were a couple of cut off branches here. Now I think there was another one here, and I didn't really know what to do with it. It was not my normal style of tree. It was sort of a bit sort of long and gangly and a bit airy fairy. And I lent it to a mate of mine, and he took it and did a 2-hour club demo. Now a tree like this in a 2-hour club demo, that's not an easy thing to achieve. Anyway, after that work was completed, the tree looked like this. So I was sort of fairly happy with that. I did have an issue in as much as the apex of the tree was going away from us, but this is a very interesting piece of trunk, some deadwood, some shari, some gins, some really nice bark. Not much going on the root surface, however. And during that summer, the tree was on the bench and the wind picked it up, threw it down onto the ground. It sort of landed up on this piece here. It squished it all, and I just couldn't be asked to do anything with it, and so I just cut the wire off, stuck it in a corner and left it. And I guess that was 2, maybe 3 years ago. Anyway, today I think it's time that we sorted this out. So I've already plucked all the old needles, so this is ready to wire, but it's going to require something perhaps a little different that I haven't done before, and it's going to involve this. That's a 3/4 inch rebar. What we're going to do with this tree is flip it around and build a whole new apex and turn it into something completely different, I'm hoping. So I thought I'd show you how that's all going to happen. So just walking you quickly through the original front of this tree, you can see this trunk is quite weak. This is where a branch or a huge root was removed. Lovely natural little gins, you can see. This one's been carved, it's making a bit of callus tissue around it. And here is the shari, which appeared when the bark died back after I bent the trunk. You can see, I think, hopefully it's just got a lovely little spiral in it. So obviously this elbow's thickened up nicely since it was bent. So one of the things I liked about this tree particularly is these branches. They're pretty much natural in that shape, they haven't been significantly bent at all. But then you can see the trunk goes away from us. We've got one odd branch there which is going off trying to be an apex, and then we've got the main part of the trunk disappearing over here with several branches, but they're all significantly towards the back. If I was in a hurry, I would have used this as the front of the tree, because looking at this trunk, it's got the most interest and the most things going on. But the more I've looked at this, and if I just turn it to the side, there you can see how much the apex is heading off towards the back, and I just can't live with that. So that's what we're going to be moving today. Just while we're up here, you can see the foliage is nowhere near as compact as I would like, but it's beautifully even, lovely big buds, lovely consistent green needles, all of a perfect length for a vibrant and healthy Scots pine. So lots of branches to work at, and as you can see, most of them are relatively thick. That's a good thickness for wiring, and it's likely to end up holding itself up. So it's been worth the wait over the years to achieve that. And as you can see everywhere, we've got relatively thick branches. So if I spin this around, from this side, you can see we've got a whole bunch of roots going on here. Not particularly attractive, but there's roots up here underneath here, and then we've got these bigger ones on top. So I'm thinking probably in the future, a future repot, one or two of them we're going to be able to do something with, either bend them or get rid of them. If you look here, there's some nice wood behind there, so that's something for the future. And then coming up the trunk, obviously very little deadwood on this side, no shari at all, but wonderful, wonderful craggy Scots pine bark all the way through. Just a hint of some deadwood here and there. Here's my elbow we put into it, and then we come up, and from this side the trunk's coming right towards us. So this is going to be the apex, or sorry, this is going to be the front of this tree going forwards. So before I wire this tree, I want to get this apex bent into the right position. Now, at the thickness it is, I could wire that quite easily with some really thick wire, and we could get in and we could manhandle that up. But as I said, this is a beautiful craggy tree with really nice bark, and that would ruin all of that, and it would also run the risk of potentially the wire pinching and damaging and causing some marking on here, which I really don't want. So we're going to use the rebar, and we're going to take this apex and we're going to pull this really quite a long way up. And like I said, I don't want to be messing with this, so this is the lightest touch that we can use to bend a significant branch like this. But with a turnbuckle and with a tourniquet, we need to pull in the right direction, and there's nothing to pull here to, hence the rebar. So I'll just get that anchored and then we'll come back and have a look. So here's our rebar secured in place. First off, the bottom end has gone into the down the side of the pot. That's protected with rubber because I don't want the pressure to crack this pot, bearing in mind that it's already broken thanks to the tumble off the bench. The second point of contact is here. We've got this little hollow that was carved previously, and you can see I've used a little block of wood to transfer the pressure from the rebar to the bottom of that hole, which obviously is dead wood. Then that's secured with a copper tie, and that's absolutely rock solid, that can't move anywhere. So then we come up here right to, where are we, there. That is a Jubilee clip, which is going to be the point from which we're going to pull the top of this tree, and if we look from there, this is the point at which we're going to secure the other end of the wire to pull this apex upwards. So looking at this from underneath, this position here is where I'm going to pull from, because it's the most significant part of the trunk at this level of the tree. We're going to be able to pull that real nice, and I'm going to protect that with a little piece of rubber hose. This is coolant hose off a motor, really good stuff for protecting bark when you're using tourniquets, because it's really thick, it's reinforced, and it'll sit there out in the sunshine for years on end and protect that bark so that we don't end up with any unsightly marks. So I'm using copper wire for this tourniquet, and we set that up quite easily. We're using a fairly substantial copper wire here because there won't be a huge amount of stress, but it'll be enough, and aluminium wire is not very suitable for this because it's just too soft. So you can see there we've got a double-ended or one piece of wire, two lengths. We run that up through there. hook that round the rubber tube, just give it a little pinch to secure it in position on either side of that. And then we just tighten that from there. And as you can see, we've got a nice long straight line that we're going to be able to pull against. So this is the bottom end of my tourniquet, and you can see the rubber hose in place. There's no tension on this wire at the moment. One of the things I've done on this bottom anchor point is popped a little wood screw there into the trunk, and that's going to stop that wire from sliding upwards. Because I'm pulling upwards, the wire's going to want to come up, and it's going to want to pull up underneath these branches, and so that wood screw is going to stop that happening. And at this end you can see how that's secured. That's not going to slide or go anywhere. That's really gripping on there nicely. So all we've got to do is tighten that wire, and it'll start to bring the apex of this tree back up where we want it. So here's our little tourniquet, and here you can see it's worked out nicely. The rubber's doing its job, and there's my little screw doing just what I hoped it would. And so that's opened that up really nicely. So, now that this tourniquet has pulled the top of this tree up, you can see the angle here has become quite acute. What that means is this is trying to pull up rather than pulling back, because as the trunk has moved back towards the bar, this angle is obviously closed, and so now it's lifting. So what I'm doing at this point is now another tourniquet secured at a lower position, because now that the trunk has gone from this angle to this angle, it's much easier for me now to pull it from lower down, to pull it back, to just get that last couple of inches of movement that I need. So this wire is secured in exactly the same place over the rubber as the original one, and then we just pull and twist, and you can see that top coming up. There's not a huge amount of stress on this wire at all, and now you can see that one there has loosened up, so we can get rid of that, and now that's much neater, and that's pulling much more in a good direction to be able to hold that where I need it. So that's the basic principle of using a rebar and some copper wire in a tourniquet to bend a trunk.